What's up, nerds and nerdettes and wee little nerdlings all? It's your buddy Big Johnny G, the Two Gun Pixie presents Legendary Gaming. All right, welcome back everyone to another episode of Tabletop Takeout Tuesday. And you know this is the series where I usually give you bullet points about why I like or love a certain game. And now, we've also been adding this into this mix. This whole Meet the Villains, where I do an in-depth, deep dive, card by card examination of a villain for Marvel Champions, the card game. So please, my friends, why don't we take a magnifying glass and really take a good, deep look at the once and future Kang. Marvel Champions, the card game. The once and future Kang scenario. Now, before we jump in and take a deep dive into the cards in this set, there's a few things that I would like to point out. This has 3 new keywords that are introduced in this game, and they are Insight, which will add more threat to the main scheme when cards with this come out. Piercing, which is going to destroy any tough status cards before even dealing damage to your heroes. And Villainous, which is attached to minions and gives them an extra boost card that affects their stats. So these are 3 new keywords that are new here to the once and future Kang scenario. Thus far, all of the villains that you've had to face off with in the Marvel Champions, the card game, you've had to defeat 2 versions of them, either 1 and 2 or 2 and 3. Now with Kang, you have to take on all 3 of his levels. And that is just for your normal standard game. If you want to take it on an expert level, well, there's a whole set of cards that you're going to module right into the deck that's going to ramp it up to expert levels. This game also does away with the normal hero obligations that your characters have, and it has its own hero obligation cards that are going to vex your heroes. At stage 3, Kang is going to be literally drawing out your hero's nemesis to bring into combat. As the scenario stages advance in this, Kang is going to separate your heroes, and they are going to be independent of each other in their own time zones, dealing with their own Kang. 3 modular sets come with this game, and they are Temporal, which is the easiest difficulty of the 3 of them, Master of Time, and then the Anachronauts. Am I saying that right? The Anachronauts. The time travelers, the time warriors, the time adventurers that he has plucked and working for him. So with those new systems in place for how this game runs, that itself right there is something that you're really going to have to worry about if this is your first playthrough of it, because it is radically changing a few things that were common in the game. Now let's take a closer look at the cards themselves. Stage 1 of Kang the Conqueror is automatically coming into play with a tough status card attached directly to him. He has 1 scheme and 2 attack. However, that 2 attack does have a forced interrupt that you're going to have to be careful of. Because when Kang attacks you, you're going to have to do one of 2 things. You're either going to have to place an extra threat directly onto the main scheme, or else you're going to have to allow him to have a +2 on that attack. Now, when he gets defeated, he's not going to just flip into Kang the Conqueror Stage 2. No, this is where things get interesting. There are 4 different Stage 2 Kangs that the players are going to have to deal with. Kang, the Scarlet Centurion, who has 0 scheme and 3 attack. He also, like the rest of them, starts with toughness. They all do. But the Scarlet Centurion, he also gets to add automatically to each of his attacks the piercing extra. All of his attacks are going to go right through any tough status you may have. Kang Ramatut. He has 1 scheme and 2 attack. As I said, they all have toughness. Now, when he attacks, he's going to get +1 on his attack for each and every obligation that happens to be in play at that time. And these are going to be unique obligations. I'll get to them shortly. Iron Lad is another of the Stage 2 Kangs throughout time that you have to deal with. 1 scheme and 2 attack. He has Retaliate of 1 point along with the toughness, and that alone should pretty much make him tough enough that he doesn't need a lot extra written out about him. Immortus is the 4th Stage 2 Kang the Conqueror that there is, and he's coming in with 2 points each on his scheme and on his attack. Yes, like the rest of them, he, unfortunately for you, has toughness. And as long as there is 1 minion in play, Kang can't take damage. And there will be a Stage 2 Kang for each of the players in that game. And if the players can win against the Stage 3 Kang, they will win the game. And Stage 3 Kang has 2 points each in his scheme and in his attack. And just like the Stage 1 Kang, you're going to have to either place 1 threat or add +2 to his attack each time he attacks you. And now, let's check out the many main schemes that Kang has going on throughout time. It all begins with the main scheme of Kang's arrival. Now, when this card comes into play, you will direct the players to get rid of their obligation cards. As I mentioned earlier, Kang has his own obligation cards to hand out to the players when they come out of his deck. Then, when you flip it to side B, you're going to put an encounter card face down in front of each of the playing heroes. Now, if the players prevent that scheme from coming to completion and losing the game, then they're going to move on to Stage 2 and 3s, where things get a little timey-wimey. When the Master of Time main scheme comes out in play and flips to the B side, it is going to cause the players to separate, get lost through time individually, and they're each going to have to draw a 3 card. All 4 Stage 3 cards, they all essentially do the same thing, but each of them is pulling a separate and different version of Kang for your player. I say player because they're all individual play fields at this point. Your player has to face a specific Kang, whether that's Immortus, Iron Lad, Ramatut, or the Scarlet Centurion. They each have their own main scheme going on, and you have to get through this stage to make it to 4. For the 4th and final stage of Kang's scheming, your players are each going to have to go through their deck and find and pull out their nemesis, because Kang is pulling them into the battlefield. And this is the finality of it. If the players survive and defeat this, they've defeated Kang and won the game. Kang has several attachment cards, and 2 of them are doubled up. Let's take a look at them. The 2 temporal shield cards are going to protect him from all damage on that specific attack. And in fact, they're also going to attack back and do 1 damage to the attacker. The 2 future weapon cards that can come out for Kang attach directly to him, and each of them is going to grant a +2 to his attack. Now that attack is also going to be granted the Overkill ability, and it's gonna stun anyone that it damages. Luckily, after it's used, it gets discarded. The last attachment card that Kang has will get attached to your identity, not to Kang. And while this is on your character, while it is attached, then when your character is gonna ready, he doesn't. She doesn't get the ability to, because that character is literally frozen in time. And then, discard the attachment. Kang's deck comes with 3 identical minion cards, the Macrobots. Now they have 4 hit points each, and have 1 scheme and 2 attack. These cards come with the guard ability and a 1 point retaliate. And if they get drawn as a boost card, then they're going to give Kang a tough status. There are 4 pairs of doubles when it comes to obligations in Kang's deck that your players could have the unluck of drawing. The 2 weakened cards, they will cause your hero to take 1 point of damage if they use their basic hero power. Now, if you're in alter ego form, then you're going to have to get rid of a strength resource card. Stolen memories are another 2 obligations that can be brought into play. When this card does come into play, you're going to have to place the top 8 cards from your deck face down underneath this obligation. If you're in alter ego form, then you're going to have to discard 1 mental resource from your hand. The 2 depowered cards are going to wreak havoc on you, as when you have them as an obligation, you cannot play a hero-specific card from your hand. And if you're in alter ego form, then you're going to have to discard a hero-specific card from your hand. With time travel hijinks, your player is going to have to take their highest cost card that's in their control, in their play area, and then place it face down underneath the time traveling hijinks card. If you're in alter ego form, then you're going to have to discard 1 energy resource from your hand. So basically, all of these are causing you to flip to your alter ego form just to discard a card so you can discard this obligation, or any of these obligations. Oh, trust me when I say there are a lot, potentially, of side schemes brewing with Kang. Corrupted Time Stream is one that could vex you. With Corrupted Time Stream in play, players are not going to be allowed to trigger alter ego action abilities on obligations. When it's revealed, each player is going to have to either discard 1 random card from their hand or place 2 threats directly on that side scheme. There are 4 Kang's Dominion side scheme cards, which will come into play during the 4th stage of his main scheme. There could potentially be 1, or there will be 1, for each active hero. Now, while this is in play, Kang cannot take any damage at all. And when it's defeated, the player that defeated it, their hero, is gonna have to draw an encounter card. Pinned Down is another one of Kang's side schemes, and when it's revealed, automatically 2 threat are going to be placed here for each and every obligation that happens to be in play. There are 2 Rampage side schemes, and whenever one of these side schemes is defeated, then you're going to have to put a minion in play directly against the player that defeated it. Kang has several treachery cards, and a couple of them are doubled up, and this is one of the doubled cards, Energy Blast. When this card is revealed, if your hero is in alter ego form, then you're going to have to discard an ally or support card that you control of that hero. If you are in hero form, then Kang is going to attack you directly. For a manipulated time stream, you're going to have to discard event cards in your hand. Each and every event card in your hand. And if you don't have any event cards to discard, then the card gains Surge. There are 2 time-traveling tactic treachery cards, and automatically they are going to surge to begin with. When revealed, each player is going to take 1 point of indirect damage for each and every obligation that's in their play area. And the final treachery card is Past Machinations, and this is automatically going to start off with an Incite 1. Also, when this card is revealed, each player is going to have to search the encounter deck and the discard pile if needed in order to find a different obligation than they may have currently and reveal it. And then shuffle those decks back and put them back in place. Now, that's not it. There's some expert cards, and then we're going to take a look at the encounter decks. Expert level Gang Stage 1 has 1 scheme and 3 attack. He has a forced interrupt on his attack, and you're going to have to make a choice whenever he attacks you, whether you're going to allow 1 threat to be added on to the main scheme, or if you're going to let him get a +2 on his attack against you. For Kang's Expert level Stage 2, we find Immortus has 3 scheme, and he has 2 attack. He starts with toughness, and as long as he has a minion in play, he simply cannot take any damage. The Kang Iron Lad for Expert level Stage 2 is coming in with 2 scheme and 3 attack. He has a Retaliate of 1, and he has toughness. Ramatut, the Stage 2 of Kang's Expert level, is coming in with a scheme of 2 and an attack of 3. Now, he starts the game with toughness, and the villain gets a +1 attack for each obligation that is in play. Kang, Scarlet Centurion, for Stage 2 of Kang's Expert Villain set, has a 1 scheme and 4 attack. He starts the game with toughness, and his attacks all automatically gain piercing. Kang's Stage 3 of his Expert version has 3 and 3 for scheme and attack. He starts with toughness, and he has a forced interrupt that when Kang attacks you, again, you have to place 1 threat or add 2 to his attack. For Kang's Temporal encounter set, we first find 3 identical cards for Ancient Warrior. They have 1 scheme and 2 attack, and each have 2 hit points. They have the Quick Strike ability, and if you draw them as a boost card, your hero is going to be stunned. Kang can call upon 2 Chitauri soldiers. They have 1 scheme and 1 attack each with 3 hit points. When the Chitauri soldier attacks you, you're going to draw 1 encounter card, and you're going to take some indirect damage that's going to be equal to the number of boost icons on the card you just drew. A Tyrannosaurus Rex. Of course, with 0 scheme, it's a Tyrannosaurus Rex. But he does have 3 attack and 6 health. He, of course, enters the game with toughness, and with fangs like that, all of his attacks gain piercing. Time Portal is the side scheme that comes with this encounter deck, and it has a forced interrupt that when this scheme is defeated, that you're going to shuffle it into the encounter deck instead of the discard deck. So that could come back around. The Master of Time encounter deck is going to bring just that, the Master of Time version of Kang as a minion, into the game. He has 1 scheme and 1 attack, but a whopping 6 health. That's right, he's as healthy as a T-Rex. Time Displaced Soldiers, with 1 scheme and 2 attack, with 3 hit points, is going to come into the game if drawn, and come in with Incite of 1, and they're going to surge another card. A double of new obligations are here, and they are Fear of Kang. This is going to make sure that you cannot attack Kang himself. If you're an alter ego, then you're going to have to discard a random card from your hand to discard this obligation, as all of Kang's obligations work. Light of Century Sphere is a side mission, a side scheme that can come into play, and when you defeat that side scheme, it's going to end up bringing a minion into play directly against you. And then finally there are two identical treachery cards called Ancient Grudge. Ancient Grudge, when this is revealed, Kang, the Master of Time minion, is going to make a direct attack against your hero. And if he is not in play, then you are going to go through the deck or discard until you find him and put him into play directly against you. And finally, the Arachonauts encounter deck is going to bring them, his Elite Warriors, minions into play. And the first minion that we come across is Apocryphus. He has 1 scheme and 3 attack and 4 hit points. When revealed, you're going to automatically discard an ally or a support card that you have in play. Death Hunt 9000 is another minion that can come out, and he has 1 scheme and 1 attack with a huge 6 hit points. He also starts the game with toughness, and he is a villainous minion indeed. Sir Rastin, another minion. He has 1 scheme and 2 attack with 6 hit points. He is a guard, and he has 1 point retaliate. Terminatrix is a minion that comes into play with 2 and 2 for her scheme and attack and 5 hit points. She also has the Quick Strike ability. The final minion in this encounter deck is Wild Run, who has 1 scheme and 2 attack with 5 hit points. When revealed, you, the player, is going to have to discard 1 random card from your hand. This encounter deck comes with 2 identical side schemes, and they are called simply the Anachronauts. Now, when either of these side schemes are defeated, you're going to shuffle each temporal card in the encounter discard pile back into the encounter deck. And the final 2 treachery cards are a double of Kang's Chosen. This card has Incite 1, which, remember, means that when it is revealed, you're going to have to place 1 threat onto the main scheme. Also, when this card comes into play and it is revealed, you're going to have to discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until a temporal minion is discarded. And then that discarded minion is going to be revealed and put into play. I hope this stroll down Kang's cards has helped you decide how to play the game, what heroes to use, or even what hero deck for yourself to build. That's the purpose of these deep dives into each of the Marvel villains.